Okay, now we're going to talk about freezing. There's a lot of different ways you can freeze your vegetables, your fruit, your meat. Some devices that you can use for freezing, the food saver. And then there's also this little thing, which I've never used this one, but I have one that's a little different from it, which is this one that when I was in Iraq, my husband sent me cupcakes over there without the icing on them, and he used this to package them so they'd stay fresh. And when I got them, it was like they had just come out of the oven. I mean, they were still moist, and they were really, really good. And of course, he sent me the icing, and everybody knew when I got a box that, you know, oh, Danielle's got something good. We got to go see what she's got. And of course, I shared my cupcakes with everybody because he sent those to me for my birthday when I was over there. So that's a good way to use that too. Then you've got your plastic containers. This is one from that Ball has, and then you've got other containers. Don't use your butter dishes. Those are more likely they're going to crack or break and get brittle in the freezer. And you also have the baggies. Just make sure they say freezer baggie. And that's usually the cheaper way to go is this. You just have to make sure you get all the air out of that bag, because if you don't, you're going to end up with freezer burn, which is up here, and it's because air was in there and it was exposed somehow and it got that way. Can you still eat it? Well, you could. I mean, if you really wanted to. It just depends how much of that is freezer burnt. You could probably cut that off and do it that way. And then, I mean, this is from the store, and it's been in the refrigerator or the freezer for no telling how long, and they're not made to be in the freezer like that. They're made to be, you know, used right away. And your vegetables, if you don't get them sealed back up right, they can end up being freezer burnt too with all the ice crystals. And this is done with the food saver, and you always want to make sure that you put your date, what's in there. This is actually out of my freezer. It didn't get sealed, didn't get all the air out of it. It's not tight like it should be. I mean, it should be like stuck to it like a glove, and it's got freezer burnt. And then this is actually some deer meat that we bagged in 2009. And we actually ate some of it, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and you can even tell it had been in there since 2009. It was still good, and it was juicy, it was very tender, and so, I mean, it can last that long. So preparing your produce, there's a 6-step for freezing vegetables. Wash it, cut it, get it dried off. Most of your vegetables, you blanch them before you freeze them. You cook them in boiling water, and for every pound of vegetables you have, you need a gallon of water. And then you put them directly into ice cold water until it's completely chilled your vegetable is. And then you want to take it, dry it off, and drain it. To freeze it, there's different ways you can do it. You could just probably dump it in the bag, but if you do it this way, you're less likely going to have all that clump in there and do it that way if you just want to pull out a little at a time and not use the whole bag right away. And then, of course, put it in your bag, seal it, and always label and date. That way you know what's in there and how long it's been in there. And this is actually I found this in my freezer last night too, and I noticed it was with the food saver, and somehow we must have not got all the air, or there was some water in there to cause the ice crystals on that squash. And then that's some onions that we had bought, and there's no ice crystals in that, and that's probably been in there for 6 months. Freezing fruit, there's different ways you can do that. You can use syrup, you can use sugar, or you can dry pack it. This is just the dry pack. You put your fruit on a cookie sheet in the freezer till it's frozen, and then you can put it in your bags. You can use containers. This is a syrup packed one. You take sugar and you melt it down in water, and that's how you make your syrup. And then you can add sugar on it, and that's the sugar pack. You just sprinkle it over it, and you gently mix it. The unsweetened is packed prepared fruit into containers without adding any liquid, or that's just putting it in there and laying it flat in your freezer. And then the tray pack, that's putting it out back onto a cookie sheet and letting it freeze. You can freeze eggs. Different ways you can freeze that. You can use little containers to freeze it, or you can put them in baggies and freeze them that way. Just mark how many eggs you've put in there, or you can even use ice cube trays. And then you can even do herbs. You can use water, broth, oil. This one is with the water, and this one is with an oil. Some of the herbs, when they're frozen, they kind of lose their flavor. to them, so you just have to be careful with that.